Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and it's kind of official now that we've got enough statistics. The Concept 5 is the worst tier 10 medium tank in the game, and not just by a small margin, in my opinion, by a long shot. Since I reviewed this vehicle a couple of months ago, I can never be sure when I'm playing something on a test server. I had a good inkling that this vehicle was absolutely abysmal. In my tank review of the vehicle, I compared it to a tier 9 medium tank, the Leopard prototype, and considering the Leopard prototype was a lot better in a significant number of areas, no one's really jumping around saying the Leopard prototype at tier 9 is crazy OP. I had good reason to be very concerned about the Concept 5. Now, with the statistics that I'm going to be showing you, after we get stuck into some gameplay today, you'll see exactly why, even though some of the best players are playing this tank, they're having some of their worst results in any tier 10 medium tank. So, what are the Concept's good points to start with? Well, it has pretty nice alpha damage on its gun. It has 430 alpha, and it has a very accurate gun, one of the most accurate guns on any of the medium tanks. And I feel because this vehicle's damage per minute is so poor, you aren't actually really obliged to take the rate of fire improvement for the field mod. There's a field mod on this tank that can improve its accuracy by an extra 5%. Now, on a Leopard, which actually wants to shoot its opponents multiple times, I would take the rate of fire field mod on the Leopard. However, with the Concept, I'm willing to actually make my rate of fire worse to be able to make my accuracy even better. Although, as we can see, you can have the most accurate kind of like snipey gun that hits really hard, but it doesn't really matter if you're driving around this big flappy box. I make that Object 140 look like it's more of a light tank than a medium tank. This thing is huge, it has a horrible hull. Whenever you get hit by a high explosive round, it generally goes in, with this vehicle having even worse armor than a Leopard 1, for example. We got hit by artillery there for 700. And the subsequent shell from the other T92, a splashing shot, was 394. And considering that your camera rating on this vehicle is just horrible, it has the same camera rating as like an E50M, even though it's meant to be a sneaky, snipey tank, that you get spotted all the time. Your opponents see you, and then you lose all of your hit points. So in this battle, we've done, what, 2,800 combined so far in the first couple and a half minutes of this game, and we're at 70 hit points. And this quite often happens in this vehicle, but other times you just get obliterated, and you don't even have those kind of emergency hit points, because on the very first opportunity, your big box of attack gets spotted, and then your armor and your durability with the lowest hit points on any of the tier 10 medium tanks just doesn't really keep you in it. The main problem with this vehicle is that it just doesn't have any statistics that make it worth playing. It's not the fastest, it doesn't have kind of like the highest alpha, it doesn't have the best penetration, it doesn't have the best armor, it doesn't have the best of anything. In fact, this vehicle, I believe it's even just a little less accurate than the Leopard. But as I said, this vehicle will actually end up being more accurate than a Leopard that's set up properly, because I believe the Leopard should increase its rate of fire, whereas this thing probably can actually sacrifice that rate of fire to gain the accuracy, so it does leapfrog the Leopard within that regard. So while it does kind of become a really accurate, dependable gun, sometimes you just don't get into the situations like you're going to see me in the rest of this battle, where you actually get to play snipe, and you get to hide in between your shells. So Wargaming has just really failed, hard failed, in my opinion, with all of the British wheeled mediums, apart from possibly the lower tiers. I think that the 8 is awful, I think the 6 is awful. There's some kind of justification for the tier 7, and the tier 9 is pretty good. But the step up from the tier 9 to the tier 10, it's meant to be the crown, the jewel in the crown of the British wheeled mediums. And I feel that the tier 10 should be the basis for the balance, and then kind of work down from there. And it feels as if Wargaming just really haven't hit it with the Concept 5. And so why have they failed so hard with the Concept 5? A tank that has wheels, it's the first wheeled medium in the game, so much opportunity for epic, so much opportunity for awesome. Well, it's because Wargaming was so petrified about wheeled vehicles having another bad community feedback. The wheeled light tanks, the EBR 105 with being the tier 10, And also specifically the EBR-75, which was the first premium tank that went in, that is crazy OP. I wouldn't say the EBR-105, now that's been nerfed so many times, is actually overpowered. And funnily enough, it has special matchmaking where it has to meet other wheeled vehicles, which kind of balances out that impact, because at least you've got one on your team and one on the enemy team. But because the community hated the impact of wheeled light tanks so much, Wargaming have made sure that they absolutely, utterly took no chances that the wheeled mediums would have any kind of impact inside the game. But my argument is that that is cowardly game development. They haven't learned from their mistakes with the wheeled light tanks. They've kind of just gone in the opposite direction and failed yet again. And that is that now we have this absolute useless tech tree of tanks that a lot of people were really looking forward to, and also people in the future who make their way down this tech tree are going to end up getting them incredibly disappointed and feel as if they've wasted all of their time and all of their economy in reaching a vehicle that, frankly, this tank could easily be at tier 9 with regards to its statistics. And so it's just left this really sour taste in my mouth. When I was first playing the Concept 5, I was going, okay, I'll give it another try. I'll give it another try. Surely it can't be this bad. Surely Wargaming wouldn't release an absolute terrible tier 10 medium for the first time in so many years. But it definitely is the case. It definitely is the case. This thing is absolutely horrendous. So let's talk just briefly about the wheels. The wheels are actually a hindrance on this vehicle, because while you can still keep moving when your wheels get damaged, they get damaged every single time. Every time a shell hits the wheel, they instantly go yellow, and then it takes longer to be able to repair wheels. And during that time, you end up so much slower. I think you lose about 65% of your top speed and your reverse speed, that you're practically immobile anyway. And so I'd rather have tracks, and as long as they don't hit my front wheel, we're going to have to shoot my tracks multiple times to actually take them off. Whereas with wheels, while you can still keep moving at an incredibly reduced pace, it feels as if it's almost even more punishing. Add to that to the fact that this vehicle, for some reason, its wheels seem to pop driving over any kind of terrain, any kind of a downslope, any kind of risky maneuver that you make over a hill or over an edge, that the wheels just pop and then you've got to waste your repair kit. Also add to the fact that this thing seems to take a huge amount of module damage, engine going, ammo rack going, all of these aspects. So you've wasted your repair kit on wheels because you're getting slowed down far too much for only one of your wheels popping, and you can't afford to drive around at the horrendous reverse speed of about 12 kilometers an hour when one of your wheels goes, or the awful top speed limit of 20 as one of your front wheels go. So you've wasted your repair kit there. And then you end up, then, say for example, getting ammo racked. And then the whole point of wheeled vehicles is that you aren't meant to have to spend your repair kits on the wheels, at least so much, unless you've got yourself in a horrendous situation. But you get yourself into those horrendous situations constantly because of the vehicle's horrible silhouette and just absolutely unnecessary, terrible camo rating. Vehicles like this that have no armor have to be sneaky. You can't have glass cannon tanks that are not sneaky unless, like the FE4005, they pack an absolute huge punch. And this vehicle, it's not even doing as much damage as the UDES 1516 or the Object 430U, for example. So when a vehicle is first released, the best players get the tank and they play it to either get marks of excellence, ace tankers, or just because they've got all of the other vehicles and there's nothing better for them to do inside the game. And so that's why when you're looking at initial statistics of a tank, you can't really feel where it's going to end up. When the concept was first released, its win ratio, I think it was second place after the CS63. Interestingly, I've seen it slide and slide and slide and slide and slide to a point now where it's below the M48, below the Leopard, below the K91, below the Batchat, and it is fifth from bottom. Now you might think, oh well, it's clearly not the worst if it's fifth from bottom then. But here's the really cool thing about Tomato GG. We can take a look at the skill level of players playing a tank by looking at the average win ratio of the players who are actually playing it. And we see that the Concept 5 actually has an average win ratio of its players of 52.38%. And so the second best players, only just behind the CS63, are playing the Concept 5 because it's new and for all of the reasons that I discussed. So the really cool thing that Tomato GG has now is that we can actually take a look at the win ratio difference between the skill level of the player playing the tank and the actual kind of results that they're getting. And then we can see, lo and behold, the Concept 5 is giving its players by far the worst win ratio. Worse than the T62A, worse than the AMX30B, which are even collector's tanks. It is giving an average of minus 3.81% win ratio for all of the players playing it. And this isn't just a skill issue either for the weaker players or the strongest players in World of Tanks. This difference is seen all the way across the curve, which just strongly suggests Wargaming have made the statistics just too darn weak in this tank. What this win ratio difference means is that, for example, let's say you're a 49% win rate player, well, you're going to be achieving 45% win ratio average in this vehicle. Let's say you're a 60% win rate player, you're going down to like just over a 56% average in this tank. And while currently the vehicle still has the luxury of the best players playing it, who are still getting amongst some of the worst results for single shot tanks, as soon as those players get bored of the vehicle and they realize that it's not a tank that's actually worth playing, there's no doubt that the Concept 5 is going to limbo under the TVP, probably the AMX30B and the T62A as well, with regards to its average win rate. So what would I recommend to Wargaming as to how I would fix this tank? Well, firstly, give a reason to play it. If you want it to be some kind of really hard-hitting tank, then if you don't want to increase the rate of fire and the damage per minute, then increase the alpha damage. There would be nothing wrong with making this the hardest hitting medium tank, for example. You could give it somewhere in the region of 450 to 490 alpha damage, which would make it higher than the 121, higher than the 430U, and higher than even like a tier 8 medium, like the Chimera. This would allow players to jump on opportunities and keep themselves hidden for a larger payout than currently, where your payout isn't even really that much better than a Leopard 1, but you don't have that crazy rate of fire to punish your opponents twice before they start to hide from you again. The other way that they could fix this is to actually make it a really fast medium tank so it can contest the early positions, because with the way that it is now, players are having to use a turbo on this vehicle to give it even a very, very good top speed. And so they're not able to get into positions to contest the light tanks. They're not able to get into positions faster than other mediums. And really, when you've got the CS63 bombing it around at 75 kilometers an hour with a turbocharger, it leaves very little room for the Concept 5. The other thing that Wargaming could address with this vehicle is the camo rating. There is absolutely zero reason for why the Concept 5 has such terrible camo. If we go and take a look at moving camo for all of the tier 10 mediums and we update, the UDES has 13.68 and we scroll all the way down to here to find the Concept 5, which has 7.81. Barely better than the E50M and significantly worse than even tanks like the Centurion Action 10. How can Wargaming possibly expect that this vehicle is going to do well if it's not sneaky enough to remain hidden to be able to get into positions or to be able to fire safely from them? Another option for Wargaming with this vehicle is to give it some kind of really special high explosive round, maybe even at a higher price, so you can have two kinds of premium rounds on this tank if they feel like it's going to be too beneficial to have a really good HE round that's cheap on this tank. And then also consider fixing this horrendous crew, which has two loaders as the commander and the gunner, which means that you can't even have intuition on this vehicle unless you have an incredibly skilled crew. All in all, this vehicle is just absolutely horrendous, and I would never recommend anyone actually getting this tank. You would do far better in every situation pretty much to get a Leopard 1. And so my question to you, Wargaming, is are you happy with the way that the Concept 5 is performing? And why have you, to all intents and purposes, made this a tier 9 medium tank to make it, at least now I think officially, the worst tier 10 medium in World of Tanks? Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that was it for today. Really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And make sure you let me know in the comments what you think about the Concept 5. Do you actually think the vehicle's amazing? Or if you played it and think the vehicle is absolutely horrendous? And if you're watching this video as it goes live on Friday, I'm going to be going live all day on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby, giving you brand new drops and tokens so you can get some fat loot. So come along, we'll play some games, have a few funny moments, hopefully, or while handing out some tremendous loot. So looking forward to seeing you all live right now on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.